This is a weird thought I had recently, but like I'm getting closer and closer to the point where graduating high school is the halfway point of my life, and that's very strange. It's weird to think that uh like that's 15 years ago, right? Like 15 years ago never used to mean high school, and like now it does. That number is getting larger, and that is terrifying. It's like it's so funny because like as you get older, the only thing you talk about, or increasingly so, you talk about getting older, and it's amazing to me that like aging is such a truly human uh experience that cannot be replicated or represented by anything. It's just like it's the one thing that and that no one talks about. It's the one thing that like you have to experience in order to understand it. Like you can't really have people tell you about it like I am now. It's like it just doesn't work. Like cuz that's what your parents always do. Your parents are always like, "Well, when you get older, you'll feel this way." And it's like, "Yeah, right, mom, whatever. Whatever." And then it's like as you go along in life, you sort of just end up with more and more clarity about what's going on in life, and like really I don't think you're old enough to handle it until you're old enough to handle it. Like there's somewhere about now where I'm like, oh god, this is what life is, and it's like terrifying. um I I feel like I did a vlog about this like a couple years ago. Yeah, I think I called it when you're older, and like I'm older now than I was then, and it's like I know some shit. It's like I've kind of kept thinking about those things, whatever it was. I should have watched that vlog before this one. Honestly, that would have been probably pretty good. Um, but yeah, I definitely had the thought that recently that it's like, man, I've you know I'm getting to the point where that portion of my life that I was in school is shrinking, and that's really weird to me. And the reason that's really weird to me is because, and I don't know if I'm the only one. The whole point of this vlog is for me to ask this question, right? I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this or that gets this, but like I feel like I could wake up tomorrow and have to go to school, and like there would be no interruption. There would be no question about it. I would be like, okay. There's a part of my brain that would be like, finally we're back, right? Like finally we're on this track again. Like I think the reason for this is like you spend all of your formative years in school, right? So like from the time you're old enough to remember shit to the time like you're really understand what a routine is, like you're in school. That's just how it works. And then all of a sudden you're not, right? Or it changes and you go to college and it's similar. Like colleges was for me a very interesting little transitionary period, because it was kind of like school. It was self-propelled more so, but it was still school, so I still had some semblance of structure in my life. It was really nice because I wasn't there all the time. So it was like school, but I had a lot more free time, um, and a lot more creative energy to get out, which it was a great time for me. I ain't saying shit about it, but like, and then it transitioned into this weird thing where there's not school anymore, right? And it's like, occasionally I still have dreams about school. I still have the layouts of all of my schools, pretty much memorized still, you know and it's just like it's such a big important part of your life that it's like it's weird. Like my boss, my manager at work, has two kids who are in elementary school, and it's just like it's weird hearing her talk about them and their experiences in the school, and like there's just a part of your brain that goes and it's like, oh god, I remember exactly where I was at their age and how I acted, and thank God it wasn't like that, right? Like it was, it's a time, but it's so weird. It's so weird. There are definitely times where I'm like, you know, that story isn't over, you know? It's like, it feels like I could wake up and just like, all right, well, summer's over. The longest summer ever is over. And it's time to go back to school. Like, school felt like the plot, you know, when you were a kid, especially if you grew up with Harry Potter, where it's like every book was like a school year, right? I think that's one of the reasons those books were so popular, was because it was like, you know, it was school and like everybody could relate to that. But yeah, it was such a weird, you know, like school was the plot back then. You know what I mean? Like, you went to school and like your social links advanced, and you know, your knowledge advanced, sort of, unless you were bad at it. In which case it didn't advance at all and you were just pissed off the whole time. But like, so much of it was like the plot. I still remember the plot of 7th grade vividly, because it was just, you know, it was me chasing after this one girl and not doing a very good job, and that continued throughout 8th grade, and it was a, you know, but it's like, it feels like it gives your life structure and meaning, because there's these, like, it feels like a TV show. There's these characters, there's these plots. Every year is a new season. Sometimes you get new characters in. Like, there's always something kind of keeping it fresh, for better or for worse. And like, let me tell you, it's kind of nice to be able to sit here and smile about it, because I have journals from high school and I was just not a happy camper. And it's so funny reading those back and being like, cool your jets, you fucking idiot. Like it is sad, because everyone like around you during high school, all of your adults, they all like roll their eyes at your drama, and like they're like, oh my god, what is this? You're not gonna care about this in 3 years. And they're right, but like, when you're in high school, it is important. It is like the most important thing going. It's the fucking plot. Like, ugh. I literally, like, I always wanted to have kids just so I could like not be like that. But now that I'm my age, I'm like, I would probably be like that, because it's like, it's so hard to look back on my own shit and be like, man, that was serious. And it's like, some parts of it were. Some parts of it was like, okay, yeah, wow, the establishment failed on that one. But other parts, it was just like, get over yourself, man. It's just fucking English. Like, whatever, man. It's fun to be able to laugh about it, but it's like, you know, I read those journals and I do kind of empathize with that person, like, because that was the most important thing in his life, you know. And for Christ's sake, at least he had something going on. It was nice to have a bit of structure, you know, in your day and in your life. Like, to have your whole life and the story framed in that way was like, there was a bit of comfort to it, right? Because you always sort of knew what was coming next. Like, you know, next year it's gonna be like this year, but different, but like 1 year older, and you know, possibly better, and you know, more brain power and all that stuff. Like, that was another cool thing about school, was like you were constantly getting stronger, and you know, bigger, and you know, growing up and becoming you. And it was this great journey of self-discovery, and every time you like thought of something new, you're like, my whole life has changed. It's like you would watch some episode of some TV show and you'd be like, oh, that's how I should be living. And it's like, I've changed as a person. And it's like, you ain't changed at all, you dumb shit. But like, you believe it because you don't know any better. Like, I miss those days, because nowadays it's like, I don't get inspired by anything. It's like, I'll watch the most inspirational thing on TV, I'll be like, that's fake. That's fake. That's dumb. That's not the real world. But yeah, it was always cool, because you were always progressing. You were always sort of getting better, right? And like, you knew it was coming next. There was some structure to it. You were like, okay, this is going to advance. These characters might be there next year. They might be important, or they might not. Or, you know, somehow they might get written out of the show, which we don't talk about how that happens, except I do all the time. But like, I don't know. It's like, it's weird. And then once you get out of that, it's like, and everything is self-driven by you, it's like weird, and it sucks, and everything blends together, and it's like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to like? It was really nice to have a life, to have sort of this weird life goal. As much as I hated my teachers in high school always being like, you gotta get ready for college, 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 gotta get ready for college. And I say it that time because it was that fucking annoying. Um, you know, um, like it was nice having that goal, and it was nice not feeling great when I got it because it was such a given at that point that it was like, it was funny at my high school because like everyone got into college. Like if you went to that school, like you weren't gonna fail out of college, right? Like you weren't gonna not get accepted because you had to apply to high school to get in there. So it was like, you know, yeah, I was one of those kids. But like, yeah, it was so nice to have that structure, and you knew where you were going, and you finally got there, and it was like, you know, I felt absolutely nothing when I graduated. I was like, literally everyone else graduated. Like, you look at the sea of parents, and like, most of them graduated. Like, 90 some percent of them graduated. They did this. That's not special. Me being jaded is another story because I didn't even care when I graduated college. I was like college is another story. A far more boring story than you would think. But it was another story all the same. But like, yeah, it's just like, is it weird that sometimes I miss that structure? Sometimes I miss like being in school and knowing, like having the you know, just having the subtle knowledge in the back of my mind that next year things are going to be kind of the same. Things are going to move forward. Things are going to happen. Cuz like I've been out of college for almost 10 years now, and like nothing's happened in my life. Like it's like I haven't really like, you don't meet new people, or you don't do certain things, and there's not a structure, and it just kind of keeps going. Like I've been at my job for 7 years, and like really 7 years is the longest that I've done anything. It's long, like, you know, I think the only thing that rivals it is elementary school, because I was in elementary school for like 8 years because I started in pre-K 3 because I was fucking weird. Um, but yeah, huh. It yeah, like sometimes I do miss that structure. Sometimes I miss the idea that like, you know, life is going to go on. You'll move on to the next thing, and the next thing will be a thing. Like in this life, it's like you move on to the next thing, and the next thing is just like the same as the last thing, and you don't really meet anybody new necessarily, and like romance options are all locked off. Congrats, you missed the boat on that one, dude. um Ugh, let's not even get into that. But like, yeah, because that was the thing. Like in high school, I had a different romantic interest. I had a different one-sided crush every couple of months, basically. And that was nice. It was nice to like, it was nice to be in a place with your peers and do things. Like it's such an underrated part of high school. And it's like it's such an underrated part of high school because everything else was so fucked up and stressful, right? Like everything else was like, man, you got to do well in the test. It's like, and it's like, my parents in particular they kind of downplayed the social aspect of it. Like it wasn't like, they never asked. They were never like, you need to go hang out with your friends more. Nah, it was like, you need to study. And it was like, huh. Like they weren't averse to me hanging out with my friends, and they were, they did support it, but it was like, and they transported me from place to place and all that. But like, I don't know. It was just like, that wasn't the main plot. It felt like, and it kind of was, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when the main plot is far more is far less interesting than a subplot. So it's like, man, I like this is getting an A on this test is fine, but like I really want to see what happens with this girl, right? Um, Spoiler alert, little me. Not much, probably. um, but yeah, it's just it's such a weird feeling to be that far away from this big life thing, this thing that still took up like the majority of my life for now. I mean, that was I mean, I don't know. I guess I started when I was 3, so like, yeah, at this point, from 1 to 3, and then from, well, it depends on whether or not you count college, but like, it's like I've been out of school it's gonna be most of my life very soon, right? And that just feels weird. It's just like it is this big thing that people cannot shake. You know what I mean? And there's just so much about it that like, that will live in your head rent free forever. And it's like because it is such a big part of who you are, and I can trace so many of the things that make me who I am today back to what happened to me socially in high school. It's like why am I cautious making friends? Well, did I have good friends in high school? I don't know. The best ones, A, didn't go to my school, B, I only saw them once a week, and C, that ended in junior year. So like, it was how could I ever trust people, right? And I don't know. I never, there was a lot going on. I don't know. It's hard to hard to quantify that without getting into it, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does anyone else feel this way? Does anyone else feel like, oh man, I could get up and go to school tomorrow and it would be totally a thing? It's like it's weird. It's weird because sometimes, occasionally, I will drive by my old high school and I'll look at it and I'll be like, first of all, it's weird that I'm driving by because I didn't drive in high school. And second of all, like, it's just weird to see. It's weird to look at that building and know that within it, there are probably none of the same people that I remember. I know a lot of my teachers moved on from that school, and probably have a long time ago. Some of them are definitely retired now. Some of them might not even be among the living anymore. Some of them aren't actually. I remember the drama teacher actually. Yeah, not too long after I graduated too. That was sad actually. But it's like it's so weird to think like I could walk in there and know my way around and like have all these memories. I can't imagine what it would be like to walk through there and just sort of constantly have these flashbacks of things that happened or like people in certain places, or pictures or just like I can't imagine what it's like. It's probably like one of those it's probably exactly like a sequence in a video game or movie where a main character like walks through a place that's important to them and has flashbacks, because it's like I could remember everything. Not everything, but a lot of things, right? I can remember sitting in the hallway after lunch with Steve and the gang, although Steve and the gang wasn't always there. I could remember the several different places I would sit in the cafeteria. The table right against the wall where I met James Moscato for the first time. Reading a Resident Evil book, and that's why I was like, a friend maybe. You poor boy. He didn't do anything. He was just, I back then I had trouble accepting that I was a nerd for a long time. So that was kind of an issue. So it was like he was a nerd, and then I was like, I like this stuff that you're talking about, but also it's not winning me any popularity points. So I have to be a bitch to you. I wasn't a bitch. I was just quiet. But yeah, it's like all these places that I remember, and all these people who are not like they were in high school anymore. They're grown up. Most of them are married, and just very different people now. And I don't know. I get the impression that I'm a person who has stronger memories of this than most, because in a way it feels like I still haven't moved on from that time. In a way, it feels kind of like I'm still stuck in those hallways. Like there's a lot of unfinished business there. There's a lot of unresolved mysteries and a lot of hanging threads and a lot of things that I just never was able to work out with myself and probably never will. Um, you know, I just, as weird as it is, it's like it feels like, maybe I won't ever move on. I don't know how old I'll be before I stop having dreams about being late to class. I don't know how old I'll be before I, you know, stop thinking about what it would be like to wake up and go to school tomorrow. And I don't know if maybe all of it stems from the idea of maybe having another shot at it, sort of knowing what I know now, just being able to go back in time and, um, you know, trying like just going back in time and just like trying to figure out what was really going on, with some of those social situations and, you know, what I was doing and what I could have done differently, you know? And it's just like, I think in some ways I look back to those days because things happened back then. Things don't really happen now. And, I like that. I liked the idea of that structure, and I like the idea of just no matter what you do, it's like high school is a roller coaster. You are gonna have to, you're gonna get into some battles. Things are going to happen. The plot is going to move forward, and then it just kind of stops, and then they're like, "All right, see ya. We're going to leave whole aspects of your life unexplained, but see ya." I don't know. Sound off in the comments. Do you feel like you could wake up and go back to high school tomorrow? Do you feel like that's like a thing that could happen? Do you have like it's been a long time and there's a lot of things and I don't know. Am I fucking weird? Don't answer that. The answer is yes. Like, get out of here.